Hi again, everybody. It's Dr. Lusheen, and this is the lecture one for week 6 of Safety 41 Analysis and Design. So, I've been overthinking this way too much. I should just recorded this, a couple days ago when I had it simple. So I apologize if things seem kind of out of place, but I've been trying to really try to frame it in a way that'll be easier for you. If you think back to week 1 when I talked about what is safety, how do you practice safety, and the way I approach it is our goals or our objectives, our duties as a safety professional is to provide workers with the best opportunity to complete their work with as minimal risk of harm as possible, and hopefully they elicit satisfaction from what they do. And so I created this table to really think about what you could be doing as you approach your case study. The goal for this week is that you write or put together a detailed outline of your first 2 sections of your case study report, which is the introduction and the methods. So, to get the complete work effectively, you need to first define the current work system design, expectations, and potential issues and concerns. If everything's going fine, why would you be evaluating it, right? Determine how work as done deviates from work as expected. That's actually a Ron Gantism. Identify conditions or sources of concern. Determine costs associated with downtime, decreased production. Because this is really focused on the work aspect of things. You could throw in there amount of waste, failure rates, things like that as well. So, customer demands. Minimize the risk. So here is this is typically what we focus on, and that is to identify hazards, evaluate risk, try and provide some form of frequency and severity for what the outcome could be. You may just have, in addition to that, you'll have potential violations of standards, ANSI, OSHA, NFPA, NEC, things like that. And then try to determine costs associated with work comp, OSHA penalties, anything that would cost if the negative was to rear its ugly head. The final element, and this is something that should be done but typically isn't, and I think in one of the readings this week that really pointed out, is you need to define the current attitude or perception of workers toward the employer, supervisor, and their work. This requires you to engage the people that are, the focus of your study. But then again, not every case study has that. But if you do have that, definitely engage with workers, get their insights, ask for their opinion on your findings and recommendations before you complete your report. Okay? So when you're out there practicing, this is the best thing to do. Obviously, sometimes you can't do all these things because there is no standardized, perfect packaged case study out there. Okay? They're all meant for learning. And I'm trying to break this down to so you understand it a little bit better. So for this week, I want you to try and create the justification and foundation for your case study. Okay, that's the introduction, and then we'll also get into methods. So you want the first couple paragraphs of any really good technical report, and again, this is the technical report, not the executive summary, they're separate, is to justify to the reader why it's important that you did this. You want to begin with stating sort of a larger or bigger picture. What is the context of what your case study is all about? And then you narrow to the scope, which is the focus of your study. And then you need to get into an extensive background in which you visualize for the reader what you're going to be focusing on and the justification, not the justification you already should have taken, but you can go further into the justification. You can go into general workplace statistics or a case, a disaster case study like from Chemical Safety Board or something from National Safety Council or something from Liberty Mutual's research lab. There's all kinds of things you can refer to provide a better, to educate the reader on what this is all about, leading up to you stating sort of the objectives of your study and then getting into the methods of what you're going to do to go about it. Remember, we're teaching with our case study, okay? So this is what you all had proposed. So Doing some noise testing, I think, is fantastic. There's justification for it. There's context for it. And I've got a couple documents I'm going to be reviewing that should help you. Let's see, how many HSI? We only have 2 HSI people right now, Noah and Hannah. If others want to join, definitely can. I will work with the 2 of you to set that up. And I can provide you with some documentation from last semester, and we'll build from it. I'll assign you some subparts. You can look at what I had done, and we'll just keep building from it. Yours is kind of unique because there's no real workers to talk to, but we can really dig into, we're basically we're coming up with recommendations based on if people don't have a certain document that can be found in the standards, that they'll be penalized. And we can kind of estimate what those penalties might be as justification for people to, this is what you're doing, so therefore this is what you need. This is the resources you have available to you. If you don't do it, it'll cost you this much. Okay, I'm going way too far. John, you and I are working together on yours. You've already begun your data collection. That's excellent. Lucy is going to do flammable cabinets. And so we may need to talk, Lucy, to make sure you understand this. And so you can lay a really strong, again, justification, introduction, section, and methods. Brayton, I talked to you last week. You said you do have access to data for this study, and so we can talk more about that to make sure everything is well understood. And then Jaden is going to do like a fall rescue, I think, or something along those lines. And it sounded interesting. And so as long as, I think Jaden and Carlos and Lucy probably have, and John too, have access to workers you guys can talk to, get their input. The rest, maybe not as much. So, but we'll do the best we can. Right? So definitely reach out to me. I'm trying to keep this vague because, again, there is no perfect design for a case study. It's all about you, sort of stretching and flexing those muscles you need in order to perform a study in order to improve something. I'm trying to put the words out there, but they're not coming to me. I'm going to go over some examples to help you all out, but please reach out to me. Yeah. All right. So we'll look at the agenda and the Canvas. I've got some assigned readings, and I've got a bigger list of things that are just for your reference. And then we'll get into, at the end here, I'm going to talk about some expectations for the capstone, because that's what we're building up to. That's the reason we're doing this stuff. So here's our agenda for this week, broken out into 3 parts. Okay, so something I need you all to know is that next week, so week 7, is when I do my midterm grading of your binder to kind of give you insight and make sure you're all on the right track. So I need everybody to reach out to me to schedule a time. I will be out of town the 12th through the 14th. I'm leaving in the morning on Wednesday the 12th. I'm coming back late at night on Friday the 14th. And so we need to schedule around that. I could meet, on the 15th in the later afternoon, evening. I can meet anytime on Sunday. I'd like to, it'll probably be tough to meet earlier in the week. But if you're reaching out to me to kind of discuss your case study, maybe we could review it then too. And so kind of wide open there. But I want to get the grading done by the end of week 7 and make sure that you're on the right track for your capstone, because then it's due on the 23rd. And we could meet that 8th week too if you wanted to. But the 23rd is basically the start of spring break. So we don't have anything that week. So that's why I put it there. I actually extended a week beyond what was originally assigned to try to help you guys out. So here's the video we're doing right now. I have one from last year that I recorded that kind of gets into the case study development, cost-benefit analysis, value-based assessment. So I want you to view that and take some notes, glean some information from it, but realize that any dates or assignment or expectation that are in this video are null and void because this is from a year ago. There is some stuff in there that will not be relevant to you, but the review of content is what I wanted to maintain in that video. The problem solving for this week is some machine guarding situations. I got some pictures. Might even have some videos, and I want you to do it just like you did last week with the aisleway width. And then for the personal professional development plan, I want you to continue posting the results of your interviews, because I know some of you, it actually extended into this week. But I'm also working to assign some new ones. I've got some current capstone students that have volunteered. I think I've got 4 right now. And I may have to extend the invitation into summer grads, because I just want you to be able to talk to someone about what you're experiencing, what they experience, and maybe they can give you some insights, and then you can share that. And that's going to be week 6 and 7. So I've turned the discussion board into a bi-weekly thing. I think that might work better because a lot of people are struggling to get it done on time. For the assignments this week, I'll give you the key phrase a little bit later. Did you guys notice that last week I didn't give one? That was kind of the point. Basically, if any of you are going to be emailing me and asking me about it, I'm going to say, are you paying attention? That's going to be, from last week, it was, are you paying attention? Without even saying it. So I am so clever. The course binder, summary of videos 1 and 2, and just some of the readings. So I provided a lot of readings. One of them you do not need to review, and I'm going to be going over these here in a moment. The others you do. I want you to kind of summarize it. Though I'm going to be going over the business case for safety and health at work, which is a European document. The rest you can kind of look through quick. And it's just meant to give you ideas, really. Give you some guidance. This week for PPD, please contact me so we can set up a time to meet. For next week, again, I'm gone Wednesday through Friday. Saturday morning, I'm also not available. It's the last week of archery for the kids, so I will not be available. But I can meet anytime around there. The discussion board for this week, just continue posting your interview stuff, and the real world problem solving is machine guarding. So I'm trying to simplify so you guys can focus on your case studies. This will be the last really busy week. Next week, I think we're going to cover ethics, a pre-recorded thing, and I'll provide some additional feedback for you, but it's going to be full bore on the case studies starting the week after this, okay? When we're doing the grading. And then you got one more week till midterms. So here's our canvas broken down very simply. So I'm going to go over all this stuff right here. You do not need to review these. These are all for your reference. These are the ones I want you to review in addition to the 2 videos. Here's the documents for the real world problem solving. So I do have a couple movies here. It's the guarding of shafts and feeder rollers. And we'll see what you come up with. And then your assignment gets posted here. And again, I've now expanded to week 6 and 7 for the discussion board. So it'll be the same discussion board link for next week as well. So one of the first assigned readings, okay, I'm going to come back to this. I want to go over the case studies real quick for you because that's why I have it set up here. I want to go over this stuff. So sometimes it's like, where do we begin? Well, we can begin with the minimum requirement, which is OSHA, and they have recommended practices for safety and health programs. And so maybe there's some resources here that you could take a look at that maybe could guide you. I don't, if you guys remember from last week, I always, in my reports to my case studies, I do provide elements from this site right here, just to educate management, either pre or post or both. I think I did both. Here's a case study on trench box safety. When was this? It doesn't have a date, but this is really well done. It's because he did such an amazing job of breaking down numbers and providing insight to the reader, so we really knew what was going on. And he's providing good references, a good cost breakdown, though I'm not sure I like when people cite or use fatality over $1 million because obviously it's to invest $1 million. No, let's keep it simple and conservative. He's got different options provided. His executive summary is a little bit long, but when you look at his actual report, he's got background here and he's really laying out what the issue is, and then he brings it back to what they're actually dealing with. I thought there were photos in here. Maybe they're at the end. Yeah, here we go. So you can kind of see the issues. He just did such a great job of educating the reader, though maybe not in the right order, but everything's here. He's got all the elements, though it probably could be cleaned up a little bit, but he's got stuff from resources, from published literature, and also things from inside their company. And I think he did a fantastic job. Really great job. He's got his conclusions here. Got great references. Yeah, excellent job. Here's one that one of my students did for me. I had done some industrial hygiene monitoring for fiberglass, and he took it upon himself to write up the case study. And you can see here, he put together some good numbers, table of contents, talks about human exposure to it. So there's some medical information in here, and then, why it is the way it is, information on how to do air monitoring. And I mean, he had access to everything, right? And I created the plan for trying to get the best possible sample for representing human exposure or worker exposure. I thought he had photos in here. Maybe they're at the end. So yeah, here's the equipment. So as this has got fiberglass embedded or impregnated into it. Otherwise, it's a cellulose roll. So when it goes through and it's receiving sort of mechanical movement or pressing or folding, it's releasing some of those fibers. I had asked that we gather this. This is adjacent to the machine where we had the highest surface accumulation, and then I had to clean this about once a day, the pre-filter. And so we were capturing a lot, but still, it was collecting on other surfaces. One of the things that we learned also is the fiberglass was accelerating the degradation of certain components because it would get in there and get into moving parts and break things down. There you see some more of it. He's got some buildup there. He shows a little bit of wear and tear because or how fiberglass is actually accelerating the degradation. Let's see, what else does he have here? Kind of focused on that. You can see a buildup right here. They're supposed to clean it every shift. They don't always, but you see how there can be buildup in different places. You can see it's adhering to surfaces. Again, this is what I brought in. Not that we measured what it captured. It was more visual, but again, I was doing the best I can. You can see some surfaces still had buildups and been cleaned. That's not good. That's not good. This overhead thing was removed because it wasn't doing any good. When air was coming out of these pockets here, it was creating static electricity potential on the wall, and that's why it's collecting right there. Air movement does that. So he basically summarized the sampling I did, but then put it into a context for management to see that it's more than just employee exposure because there was actually an underexposure. Things they can do. So he did a good job. This was for this course last year. Student was working at Komatsu, and he did an ergonomic study, and I think he did a really good job. He knew the numbers, he broke it all down, he provides pictures and explanation. Just fantastic job. Again, case studies are for learning, and so I think he really did fantastic work. Some of the things are out of place. Some of that stuff should have been up at the beginning of the report, but he did a good job. Cameron came in and took a bunch of things I had done and put together a report that he essentially became the company's environmental management system because he did such a great job. He did a lot of research here to determine, what is their status and what they should do about it. And so this is now a guiding document for what they're doing. And he did a fantastic job. He did a great job. A lot of on-site observation, collected a lot of my reports, made some phone calls, just excellent job. It was hard to put costs on here, but I still think he did a really good job of putting a few things together. And again, it's more of a reference document now as the company builds their own. But for just a case study, fantastic, just really in depth. He's got great resources here. Again, it's for teaching, right? Okay, Carlos, pay attention. This was something a student had done for noise. This is actually kind of old. They had a lot of hearing loss work comp claims, which right there is a justification for get moving, figure out where it's coming from. And even though he uses bullet points here for methods, and again, there could have been a lot more background here, a lot. Did some measures, and really, what he really focused on is what can we do to, once we've identified the higher noise sources in the work environment, what can we do to mitigate them? And so he went in and actually got some materials and started testing it and showed that there is a savings here. And I think it's even more than what he had pointed out. He did the annual average or per claim, and he's saying, oh, if we only reduce one. So this is hyper conservative compared to the numbers he had shown earlier. Fantastic job. Yeah, here's a layout of the plant. He's got some other stuff here. Again, you're teaching the person who's reading it what you had done. Were those all the case studies? I think they were. I think at this point we're going to be transitioning into the justification of it, the cost of it. Now OSHA has a link here, business case for safety and health. Not great. It's not a great reference, but in a pinch, this will do. I think better things can be achieved through like a something that provides work comp data. Like in Wisconsin, the Department of Workforce Development, they have a dashboard, but they also have historical data, though I wish it was a little bit better. The Workers' Compensation Research Institute has things as well. You can go to BLS and look at injury rates, but I do like this data better. We can take a quick look at the dashboard. And it just kind of breaks things down. You can look and try to get like an average of things. Injury views or cost view. They use the cost view. And there's some historical data as well that you can take a look at. One thing that I had done. Oh, no, that's not it. Where is my... We'll look at theirs in a second. Where is... Oh, my hearing loss. Why didn't that show up? And I got two other things I want to look at too. Sorry about jumping around, you guys. Okay, so for a company, they want a justification for why they need to do something about the high noise in their work environment. And so I generated this cost of hearing loss based on workers' compensation claims in Wisconsin, provided my links and everything, what the average might be, what the strain injury continuous noise would be for a cost. So it's between 14 and 15.5. I went to a law office. They provided some data regarding hearing loss. I looked at the Wisconsin DWD code for hearing loss and what it means, and it kind of breaks down the costs associated with it. So total deafness, they get 330 weeks of compensation based on current salary. Total deafness in just one ear, it's 55. So, would it be just one ear? No, it would be both based on environmental noise. I broke down, an example. If they had a worker who's getting $12 an hour, what they'd be getting for a payment, and they could see that. So I by showing them this information, it made the decision really easy for them to invest in the sound. What do you call that? Noise canceling headphones for workers, and they got them. And in doing so, then we also focus on what is generating the noise, and then the next step would be: is there any way we can, through the use of the equipment or the addition of sound absorbing materials, possibly reduce environmental noise? And so that's the next step. But for right now, we wanted to make sure the workers are protected. So I want to make sure you guys saw that there's a lot of information out there. You just have to look for it. And then for methods, I had shown you some examples of case studies students had done. The OSHA Tech Manual, the Field Operations Manual are two good references, but there's other stuff out there too on the NIOSH website, the CDC website, to help guide you as far as the methods you should be using. And you should, when it comes to methods, you should be able to reference something, okay? All right, let's get into the cost-benefit analysis in a moment here, but for the real-world stuff, this is for the problem. So what do we have here? This is a rotating shaft. It's part of the conveyance system. Does this need to be guarded? And you should watch the video in order to see what that shows. I'm not going to show that. I'll let you watch it. And then here we've got a guarded shaft for a different machine. Again, it's part of the conveyance design, but that one's belt driven. And then here we've got a sort of a glider guiding system that once it comes off the roll, it's feeding into the conveyance. And if something rolls here and somebody gets a finger too close, what would it do to them? I think I might have a video on that too, maybe. Nope, that was it. One of the videos I think shows the roller. So we've got a pinch point and we have a rotating shaft. I want you to evaluate those. That's something that comes up all the time. And I can give you feedback next week on what I did about it. So for this week, the assignment's due by the 9th, but the discussion board's not due till the 16th because, again, we're going 2 weeks. All right, so let's go over some of this stuff. So I showed you this already. And then we've got these are the 3 documents I want you to review. Yeah, 3 documents I want you to review for this week. All right, let's bring this back up. So I'm going to review the first one here because this is a European document, business case for safety and health at work. And I think oops, you guys don't want to see that. There we go. And so what it does is it attempts to expand your perception of what is a cost. Right now you may think, oh, what is an injury cost or what is a OSHA citation cost? But this document reviews literature in order to determine what are other people doing. And even, their end finding is that we're not doing a good enough job. There's so many more opportunities. And I've tried to do that in the work that I had done, just a couple of years ago, in the last couple of years. So a couple questions here. Are the investments worthwhile? How are they being evaluated as far as economically evaluated? When should it be done, and does prevention pay? I mean, we want to think it always does. So a return on investment, the equation for it is essentially it's the difference between the estimated loss minus the estimated investment, and then that quantity is divided by the estimated investment. And that's how you determine return on investment. But we sometimes we focus too narrowly on something, or we get lazy and we say, oh, well, it's going to prevent a death, and a death can be $1 million. Okay, well, that's a very rare occurrence. It could possibly occur, but let's be more realistic. Let's be more conservative. They get into the cost and benefits for investment. There's an initial, there's ongoing, there's productivity gains, you're avoiding certain costs, there's job satisfaction, corporate. So I want you to think beyond just the real simple stuff. And that's something that you can come to me and we can talk it through and figure it out. Some things need to be estimated, some there's actually records of. For decision making, what does management need to hear? Is it worthwhile? How can you assure to me that what you're recommending is actually going to work, is going to functionally improve things? And you want to do all that work up ahead of time. Let's see, what are some of the things here? Just want to make sure that management fully understands what the current condition is, how your recommendation will augment it and how it will augment it, and then what the estimated improvements will do. That's really what it comes down to. So we're doing a case study, which is pretty much making safety into a business case. That's the focus of this, you guys, that we can show that there's a financial advantage to consider your recommendations. What's the consequence of no intervention? That's another way you could look at it. That there are non-safety improvements along with your recommendation. So make sure you clearly state your assumptions and properly cite your references. Okay, that's very important. What they found is what they had reviewed. Really is currently these reports that they reviewed do not have sufficient data to really answer the questions of the study, which is interesting. And that's something you may want to state. If you say, well, I'm going to do this stuff and figure this stuff out, and then when it comes to the end, it's like, well, I think this is the best way to go, but we don't know everything right now. It's better to be honest. The context of the study, a smaller number of unpublished studies identified excluded the possibility of randomization. Okay, that's just part of the study design or limitations. The evaluation parameters calculated by the spreadsheet are payback, initial return on investment, net present value, profitability. So it goes beyond just your cost benefit or value based assessment. But if you get out there in the field, you may actually have to start factoring in things like annual depreciation, taxation, things like that. But for this class, for the capstone, we're going to keep it simple. Sometimes it's better to put, especially if it's multi years, to put together more of this. What are these called in economics and accounting? It is it's right on the tip of my tongue. You guys are probably saying it. Ledger. Our investments, financial factors. Yeah. So make sure you lay out your case study as clearly and detailed as possible. And that's where students usually but don't do as well, because they're so close to it that they speak to it as if the reader is as close as they are and has seen what they've seen. And so you have to almost kind of step back and think of the reader when you put those things together, and just be honest and clear and transparent with what you're doing. So the key phrase, or whatever we call it, the passcode or phrase, is justify your case study. That's what it is. How do we justify it? Well, we assess the cost-benefit analysis or the value-based assessment. Build a business case study. So again, justify your case study. Interns need to investigate what the company values or what financial managers perceive as valuable. That's very important. Intern needs to develop a sales plan for their case study. Because again, you're trying to convince management to do the right thing. So it really behooves you to go this extra step, and then you incorporate these what would you call this? These influences into the executive summary, because that's probably all those people are going to read. The case study is to educate others who are going to try to replicate your work or understand it. The executive summary is about selling management and what to do. So it's good to take a further step to understand what do they value, how do they relate to it, and then build it around that. So here is this may be older, but this is internship expectations. Your site supervisors should be qualified. And what that means is they should be able to give you some of the insights we've talked about here. What have they experienced? What has worked for them in proposing recommendations or acquiring funding? What doesn't work? You should meet with your site supervisor either before you start or right after you start to come up with a plan as far as what are going to be your primary assignments, what are secondary projects you can work on when you're not working on the primaries, and what are some tertiary assignments you could be working on when you're waiting for information or guidance or feedback or whatever on the first two levels. Okay? It's really important you do that. Don't show up and then just figure it out as you go, because then you're going to spend a lot of time twiddling your thumbs. You don't want that. You want to take advantage of that time there. It's really important. The case studies are kind of the quintessential artifact from the capstone internship, which is why I'm spending so much time talking about it in this course. It's so that you can get more out of it, create better documents, all those things. And lo and behold, please don't forget about your own professional development and your own networking opportunities while you're in your capstone. You're out there working. Interact with your boss, interact with other people in the work environment. I mean, it's good to learn what's the plant manager or the site foreman, what's their background? How do they approach their work, and how does safety fit into it? Operations people, engineers, maintenance, finance. Everybody, get to know as many people as possible. So networking within the company, but if you can also network with like ASSP or other professional groups, even better. And then think about using LinkedIn continuously to evaluate job opportunities, of course, but also to find experts out there who can provide you with mentoring and advice. Let's see here. So when you're looking for a capstone, make sure it starts on or right around the first day of that semester and goes through the end. There are exceptions from time to time, but it makes it a lot easier on us if we can put you all on the same timeline and have the same deadlines. I don't know how students do this, but especially in the summer. Oh, my family's going on a vacation. Can I have a week off? Dude, really? I mean, you're almost done. Just finish the project. Any time off, you have to first get approved through the company you're working for, and then secondarily, accommodations will have to be made through whoever your assigned faculty advisor is for your capstone. But try to postpone all that stuff. Get your capstone done, get your work done, pass, get your degree, and then you can go on that family vacation you wanted. Yeah, you've already probably read that part. So you must achieve what is it here? You have to achieve a minimum 70 for your capstone. It's not, you don't get a letter grade. It's a pass-fail. But if you get below 70%, you have to retake your capstone. You do not graduate. It should not be difficult. It shouldn't be. As long as you're keeping in regular contact with your assigned faculty advisor, doing a good job building and tracking your work through a binder or portfolio, weekly participating in the discussion board as assigned, completing your case studies satisfactorily, that's 30% right there. The presentation's 5%. Everybody tends to really rock that, but it's predicated on how well your case studies go. Your site host actually gives you 20% of your grade, so be nice to them. If they like your work, you show great promise, you can get the whole 20% there, and then you have to complete your final survey for 5%. Have students had to retake their capstone? Yep, because they didn't do the work. They didn't do the absolute minimum, which is very easy to do. So yeah, they had to redo their capstone. So I don't want to talk about that. It shouldn't happen. If you're on the ball, it shouldn't happen. Everybody should be getting up into the 90s or more. Well, what's above 90? 100? So this week I'm going to be assigning you either a current capstone. Forget about these dates. That doesn't mean anything. I'm going to try to assign you your next set of calls with either a recent grad or a capstone student, and the questions are going to revolve around the case study work. Okay. This is the old information we gave for the case study report. I'm trying to develop better references for you, simply because I want this to be, again, I want to see better reports. We're seeing good reports now. Still a few questionable, but for the most part, they're getting a lot better. Here is an updated grading rubric for it. Not that you guys look at this kind of stuff, but again, the technical report is to teach the reader, how to replicate it, what you learned and how to replicate it. The executive summary is selling it to management. And then, there should be like a pre-approval or expectations of your work. You should be doing that. Don't dive into something and then find out 2 weeks later that it's not the right thing. Talk to people ahead of time. Make sure you're presenting as well as possible and that everything looks really professional. That's important. So that's the presentation for this, or the lecture here. I think there's a lot of stuff. But this is meant to add, to your portfolio. So when you go into your capstone, you've got a lot of stuff you can refer to. And the amount of time you put into these summaries you do each week is important, because you can look back and everything should be organized so you can find this stuff when you're out on your capstone, because it's meant to guide you. It really is. And that's about it. So you should, hopefully you guys are contacting me this week to set up meetings for next week, or asking me questions about your current work on your case study. Next week, I'm traveling, but I'll be reviewing your binders or your portfolios, because we'll be meeting. We're going to have a presentation on ethics, and so it'll be simplified. It'll be simplified the week after too. I think I'm going to do psychological safety as the topic. And so I'm going to sort of slim things down so you can spend a majority of your time working on your case study, but I definitely want you to be thinking about it and reaching out to me with questions and to get feedback. So best of luck to all of you, and I look forward to hearing from you this week.